Hello and welcome to the Barnsley FC Reds Report, powered by the best of Barnsley and part of the TalkSport network of fans. A special episode, it's our mid-season report cards. And let me introduce the co-host as always. Because we're doing report cards, I've both given you a score as well. So he's the vlogger and blogger that puts everything Barnsley FC in words like no one can. And for this midterm report, we give him a big fat 10. It's Ian Hope from the Tykes blog. How are we doing, Ian?
Very well, thank you. All the better for getting 10 out of 10. Thank you.
Well, that's it, you see. Right, Steve. He often likes a subtle pun, but he's worth more than just a one. He has a different interpretation from what we all see, but he's still worth more than just a three. His laugh is infectious, and when he's on one, he's great, but he's definitely worth more than just an eight. He's the Redfern to my Ashley Ward, and he means lots to different men. He's the one and only Steve Andrews, and of course, he's worth a 10. Look at that. Steve Andrews.
Poetry in motion.
There's no following that, is there? Let's be honest. There's no. Finish it there. Thanks very much. Happy New Year.
Thank you all for listening.
See you later. Thanks very much. Brilliant, that mate. Very good. Very good.
Boys, last Christmas I gave you my heart, and then the next day we gave it away, and we blew it away, didn't we? At the Wham on Boxing Day, Ian. And dare we say it was a game of two halves?
Yes, I thought so. I remember some of the Accrington commentary I was listening to, and they said they just couldn't cope with our press and the way we kind of were all over them, and you couldn't see them getting much of a sniff. To be fair, we just needed that second, never got it, and I think the game changer was losing Connell. He had to be subbed off before he got sent off, but he's our engine. He makes us tick. He sets the tone for everything positive we do, and we missed him, and then come a cropper, didn't we, to the sucker punch, really.
Steve, I know there's injuries and there's illness in the squad, but was it fair to say that we mentioned it during our sort of chat while the match was on, that game management was maybe a little bit questionable? And is it fair to say that neither substitutes really made an impact? Because I can't remember Martin doing much. Wolf came on, but I know he's not a Connell, but it just all very subdued, wasn't it, when they came on?
Yeah, it was definitely a funny one. Connell had to go off before he got sent off, and there was a definite change throughout the team, I thought. Wolf came on, and to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed with Matty Wolf. Normally he can fill that sort of holding role, but no, didn't really show up at all, did he? Martin's a waste of a shirt. Sorry, he is. Far better players to come on before him. But this is not the first time that in play game management you could actually question. I know we all love Michael Duffin for what he's done up to now, but this is not the first time that you've been screaming at telly at 70, 75 minutes, put a sub on, swap something, change something, and he either doesn't at all or he just changes like for like. And it was just poor. It was a poor day.
Ian, on social media, a lot about the referee. I don't want to go into that, not because it was a lady referee, whatever. I thought she got some things right. I think she missed some things. I don't think she was consistent enough. If I had to give her a score, we said it before we recorded, I'd probably give her a 6 or a 6.5. But the result is our own downfall, isn't it? 20 shots, 5 on target. That's a big part of the story, isn't it?
It is. Ref was poor, in my opinion. Going off her performance, not whether she's female, male, or whatever. Just second half. I never felt like we were really knocking at the door. We were never really gonna get that second. Like Steve said about the in-game management, Norwood's still on with 70 odd minutes. Where's Jallo? Bring somebody on, or somebody who might be able to make something happen. And like I said, the like for likes, it was just as poor as the weather was. I think the performance and some of the decisions were as well from our bench, I think.
One thing that surprised me, you just talked about Norwood. I mean, took the goal, but instinct, wasn't it? Fox in the box kind of thing. Can't remember him doing much besides that. And what was I thought was really interesting is at the full-time whistle, all the players hurried down to the tunnel, halftime talk, clean shirts. And Noah would sort of it was like a leisurely stroll, sort of half jog almost into the tunnel. And then I always felt in the second half, he was just a yard, 2 yards behind. Um, I know you talked about game management, Steve. What does somebody like Fabio Giallo need to do to get a sniff? Because surely the tide turned. They were very much in the ascendancy. They started spreading the ball about, quicker passes, interplay. We had trouble getting to the ball. Why do you think he didn't make any changes? Because I think everybody there and everybody on telly could see that we were under the cosh, so to speak.
Well, that's $1,000,000 question, isn't it? If we knew the answer to that, obviously we'd be managers ourselves. You don't know what goes off in training during week. You don't see what goes off behind closed doors. All you see is 90 minutes on a Saturday or a Tuesday, Wednesday night. Again, Norwood for me, was it a classy finish? Did it come off his foot? Did he have his eyes open at the same time? Who knows? But yet again, another player not doing enough by a long, long way. And what Giallo can do to get that spot, I don't know. Because every time he's come on, he's looked lively. He looks hungry, and he wants to impress. Yet he's not getting on. And like you say, 70, 75 minutes when Norwood has chugged around the field with not really much interest and very little else. What else can you say to bring Giallo on? There's either something in Duff's mind saying he's not ready, but again, that was another ideal game because let's face it, Accrington were no special at all. We should be beating teams like that, but if you can't get on the field, you sometimes, as I say, you sometimes question the in-game tactics at the moment. That I'm just, it just leaves a bit of a bad taste in your mouth. As I said, Norwood's there, he's played 70, 75 minutes, he's got a goal and come off, and you'd normally think if you just read the report, he's probably had a semi-decent game. But other than ball coming off his tour, what else did he do?
Yeah. Said it earlier before, the strength in that is worrying, isn't it, Ian? When we talked about Wolf, but if you talked about Josh Martin, for instance, and he came on, you listen to the commentators and they talk about his pedigree in Norwich and alone and blah blah blah, and everything is there ready for him to almost kickstart his career, and it's just not happening for him, is it? He had an opportunity of playing a fairly for them, because the professional football is a fairly simple pass. It was miles too hard, miles in front of the player. And I liked him earlier a little bit. He reminds me of like a Clark O'Donnell, who's got it, but it never really comes out. A Dele Alli, who's clearly got the potential, but it just don't come out. Do you think we'll keep him in January? Because, I mean, he's not playing regularly. He's not really performing to that level. Is that maybe something that he'll look at, maybe sending him back and getting somebody else in? What we're going to do with the enigma that is Josh Martin?
He reminds me of one of these players who will have one good game every 10, and the other 9 will live off that one game. And we can't be carrying people. We really can't. Do we keep him? I think it depends on how our recruitment goes in January. You'd like to think that if we get to the last couple of days of January and we've done some good business, then we can start letting people go, because you don't want to let them go before you get people in. But I've not seen enough from him to warrant giving him a go in the second half of the season. It's the odd, I think, was it at Doncaster in the Papa John's or whatever, is the only one I can think of. And I thought, looks a right player here. And he's flattered to deceive since. So for me, if we got somebody in who can do a job, then I'd move him
on. Tomorrow, because obviously the games are coming thick and fast during this festive period, at home to Fleetwood. Fair to say that we need to be on it if we want to get a 6 consecutive home win, because that's what's on the line, isn't it? Have we won 5 at home in a row now? Besides the obvious of scoring more goals, Steve, what needs to change from the Accrington performance?
Oh my days! Don't put me on spot at all, will you? What needs to change? Attitude of some players, skill level of some players would be really nice if that changed. Obviously, it's a wish list that's never going to happen. Like you say, such as your Martins won't get anywhere near bench. I've seen some under 23s have better games in Pizza Cup than what he's produced up to now this season. And like you say, a couple of goals against Donny, and let's face it, one of them were a tap in. You could have scored with your arse. He just wouldn't. Players like that. No, let's get to somebody who's hungry. Let's start and make a fight for it. And them kids, like I said, Jallo, let them have a go. Why not?
Yeah. And interesting, of course, Ian. On Sunday, it's January, the start of the opening of the transfer window. We've talked about improvements or more players down the right hand side. We've talked about strikers. Read earlier on, Clark O'Dore is being sent back from Hartlepool. He's not really getting the game time, and the manager there is trying to instill to him, like, have you done everything you can? Have you put your mark on the match? It's worrying, isn't it, that if at Hartlepool he's not able to do that, he's not going to walk into a Barnsley team in League One that sits fourth, fighting for promotion. Is that maybe a player you think that can we might see leaving or going elsewhere out on loan again?
I would imagine he'll come straight in and go straight out like a revolving door. I think they'll find another club for him. I'd like to think they'll find another club for him. I don't know whether he particularly wants to be here. I don't know, but I would imagine he'll come in, he'll be on the books, and by end of January he'll be back in League Two or somewhere. I can't see a place for him in this team. When everybody's fit, he's not getting anywhere near that matchday squad, is he?
And obviously, not imminently, but Thomas is making slow recovery. He's back in the gym. He's a few weeks away yet from coming back. That's somebody we have missed, because I know early on in the season he was the one that made things happen. We talked about the right-hand side. I mean, that would potentially solve a bit of a problem, wouldn't it, when he comes back? Right-hand side striker. Anywhere else that we need to look? Any other areas that you think, Ian, that strengthening that is not really enough if we want to continue that push for promotion?
I'm not convinced by Cundy. I don't know, Steve isn't.
Convinced as what? Convinced as a footballer, or as convinced as an oil tanker?
Yeah, he does.
Because I'll be honest as well, on Saturday, I didn't think, not Saturday, Saturday against Accrington, I thought Jordan Williams had a poor game.
Yeah.
And I know we talk about that right-hand side, but he had an off game. But Cundy's constantly having an off game. Just not, for me, not quick enough at all.
No, I think with McCarthy out for the season, Kitchen and Anderson picked themselves. With Tom Edwards on that right, I think, and that helps Williams. And I think Edwards is out for the next 2 games. He's not even going to make the Bolton game. So I would be looking, although we've got quite a lot on the books of centre halves, I would even look at another centre half, because I'm not convinced by Cundy at all. We're halfway through the season, and like Steve says, he's slow. He looks a bit ponderous. If you got a lively striker, he'll cut him to shreds. I really do think I do get nervous when he gets near the ball, a bit like when Moon plays, if he ever plays. That kind of nervousness, though, when he gets on the ball, I think there's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. Right, Fleetwood then. Score prediction before we go to the report card. Score prediction and first goal scorer. I'll go 2-1 Cole.
Oh dear. Oh
Steve.
dear. See, it's going to. This is actually one of the hardest things, because you know for a fact they could come out and quite easily put 3 or 4 past Fleetwood, and then you get a performance like that at Accrington. Is there going to be a hangover from that, in the sense that they're going to step up and they're going to play the socks off, or are we still in the Christmas New Year period where some of them, and especially on Saturday, just looked as though they'd either had too many puddings or just couldn't get a chuff? And that, to me, is the worrying thing.
Is it Turkey?
I think Turkey and Summit. I just think it's going to be another tight game. It'll be another nail bite. I'm going to go 1-0, and I'm going to go. Well, I'll go back to Anderson, my mate.
I think Steve sums it up really well. Is it going to be another hangover? The quotes coming out about got to take your chances. I'm hoping they might have had a bit of a rocket, so I'll go 3-1. Goal scorer, flipping out, you could flip a coin, couldn't you? I'll go really out there now and say Liam Kitchen from a corner.
Ooh, I say powering in like Harry Maguire.
Look at that. Right, lads, last week I sent you a list of regular players and I asked you to score them between 1 and 10 and give a little bit of a remark like a report card. We're not going to go through them all, but we will go through most of them. So, to start, Bradley Collins, the remarks we got was good shot stopper, but doesn't instill confidence with his tippy-tappy footwork. Still looks like an extra from Kez. Can be prone to the odd error even in the air or when the ball is at his feet. However, that balances out by saving us in other games. The scores he got was Ian a 7, Steve a 7, Carlo gave him an 8, so he comes out with a 7.3. He's not really, I know we've seen Walton at a couple of games, but he is the number one keeper for us, isn't he, at the moment? And he's not really done anything to cause any concern as yet.
No, I think him and Walton are very close. I don't think he's like outstanding number one keeper, but he's consistent. He's consistent enough. He's a good shot stopper. In a season, there are a couple of games where he saves us, and then there's a couple of games where he'll have a little bit of the howler. So yeah, 7.3 is probably a fair comment in it.
I must admit though, I would like to see that other lad, just to see what he's made up of.
Oh, that Jamie Searle.
That new, that because he's taller than them both, I think. Or looking at him, he looks taller than them both. And
yeah, it was interesting when they brought him in because I thought, does that mean somebody is leaving? Because it's difficult almost to have 3 number one, fighting for the number one spot. But they don't often change unless it's a cup game. So it's very much Collins to lose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, Captain Mr. Anderson. Remarks were best player by far from 0 to hero in his time at Oakwell. If he continues in this form, he will become one of the best. Gone in the summer if we don't go up. Mr. Consistent, loves being a Red, wins the physical battles, good in the air and comfortable with the ball at his feet. And the scores, Ian gave him a 9, Steve gave him a 10 and I gave him a 10. So he comes out with a 9.67. I mean, there's not much we need to say about Mads Anderson. He's just been solid this season, hasn't he? And there might be a mistake later down the line, but I think he wears his heart on his sleeve and he bleeds red, doesn't he? And whoever said from 0 to hero, I mean, he was booed off when he first came, but boy, and crowd favourite, isn't he, Steve?
Yeah, there's as things stand, there's no criticism that you can give Anderson that stands up anywhere, and anybody who does criticise him, again, just don't know what they're talking about, to be quite honest. No. He's developed as a player. He's developed as a man. You only have to look at some of his posts and stuff like that. He's in all to this healthy eating and all this stuff that they do. And all power to the lad. He's come on absolutely amazing, and he'll go down as things stand as one of the best centre halves we've ever had, along with Dizu. But if we don't go up, I think he'll go. I don't think he'll go in January. We might get some bids for him, but I think he's loyal enough and he loves Barnsley enough to stop. But I think the summer we could find it hard to keep hold of him. I really do.
Yeah, for me, he's in the elk that like Mawson was, that Mark Roberts was. Just solid. Tips him with the goal as well. Okay, next player then. We all gave him a 6 and described as follows. Bags of potential, just needs to show it. Early days and take a time to settle, but could go on to big things. Lovely left foot, and then to give it away. Now showing us why he won League 2 awards last season and created so many assists. Nicky Cadden, 666. What needs to improve if you would have had Master Ian and Nicky sat in front of you? What do we need to see more of?
I think he's doing what he should be doing. I just think he had a bit of a slow start, and I think the change of systems didn't suit until we got to a 3-5-2. I odd injury early on. I think really just carry on doing what he's doing and he will steadily improve. He's got a beautiful left foot. When he pings some of them balls in, they're just asking to be put away. I think there were a couple of games, I'm not sure if it was Exeter at home, something like Lincoln, where he didn't track back enough and we conceded goals, but I think he's improved in that respect. So yeah, just keep doing what he's doing. He's probably expected a lot from him early on in the season with what he'd done last year at Forest Green, but it's been a bit of a slow burner, but he's coming good now.
The next player then, not so good, I'm afraid. Scored a 4, a 2 and a 3. So that's an average of 3. Not good enough. Slow, hesitant, limited quality. He was free, and you can see why. Looks slow and scared when the ball comes near him. Maybe needs a run of games, but not convinced by him yet. And that's, of course, Cundy, which we spoke about earlier. You mentioned him earlier, Ian. Tom Edwards. Scores 8, 7, 8. The 7 coming from Steve. Rookie start, but coming to his own at the right of a back 3. Can only get better. Solid player, fitting well the back line. Needs signing up ASAP. I suppose this is one of the areas, isn't it, where we talked about the strength in depth. When Edwards doesn't play at the back of those 3, you worry a little bit, don't you? That is a bit exposed. Kitchen, Anderson, Edwards, ball-playing defenders, happy to go forward, happy to go past the man. Cundy is a sideways and back to the keeper kind of player. Is it maybe a priority to get him signed up in this window, Ian?
If we can afford him, I'd like to think we can. I would definitely think if we've got any serious, if the board are serious about us giving Duff the tools to get up, get promotion, he's the caliber of player. He should be playing at a higher level for me. Edwards is a good player. I'd hate us to miss out on him.
The next defender, it says it all, 888. And that's Liam Kitching. Either brilliant or shocking, but he's come on leaps about the season, showing his quality, fighting attitude. Definitely one of the first named on team sheet. Lots of potential. Prone to yellow cards, but bounced back from a bad season last year. Good understanding with Mats and can play left wing back. We know Kitchen, we know he's performing. Lakechi, we'll not go into it too much. 5'6", 4. I scored him before. Steve at 6, and you were at 5. I don't think we've seen enough, but I think when we have seen him, I don't know. I think it's another one that maybe a regular run of games. Steve, is that somebody you'd like to see a little bit more of when he's, if he's available, or is it not for you, this one?
No, I think he's a young lad. The bits that we have seen, I think he looks again. I know we talk about potential. One thing we've got to look at, especially in January, it's no good signing players that can't hit ground running. We need quality. I'd rather we just sign 2 or 3 quality players rather than doing what we sometimes do, is get 3 or 4 in that are mediocre and not really better than what we've got. I think Lakesh is good cover for left-hand side. Yeah, he needs a run of games. Whether you'd play him in Cadden's position or in front of Cadden, sort of a wide midfielder, you could do that, I think. But I think he will. If he sticks with him, I think he'll come good.
Yeah. The next player, not so good, I'm afraid, scored 2-1-2. Jasper Moon comes out with a 1.67. It says one of the remarks is no, and the other one is League 2 player at best at the moment. He needs to go out on loan. Do you think some of that, I don't want to call it damage, but when he was thrown to the Sharks, wasn't he, really, last season by previous managers, Ian? Does lower division, a good run of games, will get some of the confidence back, do you reckon? I'm
not entirely convinced there is a player in there of at least League One, even if he got a good run of games. I just don't see why he's here if he's not even coming on and getting a couple of minutes or something. If we suddenly had an injury crisis and you threw him in, he's not been playing as he's not up to speed. For me, we just need to put him out on loan somewhere and maybe have a look at him, give him the rest of the season somewhere, see whether there is a player in there or not, and move him on. Because at the minute I'm struggling to I just don't think he brings anything to the party for us.
No.
Interesting though, the 1.67 is not the lowest score. We'll get to that one in a moment. Steve, next one for you. 888. We don't need to say much about this. Jordan Williams, rookie start Oakwell, proves the doubters wrong. Excellent going forward. Can be a bit iffy defending. Wasn't convinced at first, but he's a vital player now. Must stay fit. Revelation, isn't he, when he came on and they put him down that right hand side?
He's, like you say, a bit of a rocky start, but like Anderson, unlike Moon, has showed that he's got guts and he wants to fight for a position, and he has come on really, really well. He looks really good going forward. Yeah, he does look iffy sometimes defending, proved on Saturday. Another one of these players that if his head's not in right space, you might as well take him off and put somebody else on. But when he's on his game, one at best right-sided defenders, come midfielders that we've got, and that you would say is in League One. He can produce some really good balls into box. He's quick, very, very pacey, and he's not scared to take a player on. So yeah, he's done really well. Come on, leaps and bounds.
Solid 8. Next then for you, Ian, the Enigma. The scores 7-7-6. Remarks as follows: shit, good. Shit, good. Quality is there, just questionable attitude. Mr. Inconsistent. Can be brilliant one game, poor the next game. There's a player in there. Hope Duff can get him performing regularly. This is, of course, Josh Benson. 6.67. Are we being maybe a bit too positive about him? Because earlier on, a couple of decent goals, but he's gone quiet again. I know he's injured at the moment, though, isn't he? He's not in the squad. 6.67. What does he need to do again, Ian?
Just try and be consistent. He can set the world on fire. He can play really well. He can ping a ball. He looked good when he played right wing back against Crewe. I know it was only against Crewe in the cup, but that kind of period, those games, he was really up for it. He wanted the ball. He was doing a right good job, and then suddenly, in the blink of an eye, he goes off the radar again within a couple of games, and you're like, well, where's that player gone? And then he comes back round again, and it's just like you get dizzy with him, don't you? Because we're lauding him one week and then going who the next.
Yeah.
Considering he's come from such a level, I'd expect a bit more, really, a bit more consistency.
Well, consistency you want. The next player scored 999. Quintessential Barnsley player, strong, can see a pass and execute it, always talking on the pitch, fearless, loves a scrap, captain material, and has the potential and opportunity to become the next Banks or Redfern. Scratching around for a club, now looks a diamond of a player. Has it all. Passing, toughness, does the dirty work really well, makes us tick. I mean, 6 lines of remarks there for the one and only number 48, Luke O'Connell. The find of the season so far?
Oh, God, yeah, definitely. You keep seeing things come up on Twitter on different sites saying who's your player at season and who's your star player at the minute. And Luke O'Connell lives up to all the billing that you've just said. He is an amazing find. I've got to say I'm surprised we've got him, but he's definitely one that we need to look after, we need to nurture and just bring him on and just let him play, because you can see that he's that sort of player that he wants to motivate all around him. He's always talking, all right, he likes a bit of a scrap. He's going to get sent off. We know he's going to get sent off, but we love him for it. And he just drives the team forward. And he was such a massive loss on Saturday against Accrington. The team just went downhill when he went off.
Yeah.
Now that's good for him. Yeah. But if you want to flip that over, it's not really very good for Barnsley as a team, because it means that we're relying again on one player, and we shouldn't be. So we need to back him up, but we need to bring quality alongside him and in front and behind him.
Yeah, we've not had confirmation, but if he is suspended because of 5 yellows, then that'll be the biggest miss tomorrow, wouldn't it, Steve?
Oh God, yeah. Because then you're wondering then, so who's he going to bring in? Like you say, Benson's injured. You've got Kane, who's pulled his socks up and he's playing better. Phillips, again, a bit up and down. Yeah, he scores a goal, but can go missing. Went missing on Saturday. there were a couple of challenges on Saturday that he just didn't fancy, so he just didn't bother. Matty Wolf would be a instant replacement, but again he had a bit of an iffy game, but that could have just been a one-off. But you're then coming down to, who do you bring in then? Are you bringing under 23 players in? We are struggling in depth, and I think another quality midfielder is a certainty, or we definitely need one this January.
Yeah. Next then, you mentioned him earlier, 6'7", 6.33 is Mark. I mean, you know immediately who I talk about after this first remark from Steve. Living off one good season at Donny. He's improving.
Straight under bus every single time.
He's improving, but would have expected a lot more by now for the money we've paid for him. Improved in the last month, but prior to that awful big second half of the season coming for him. That is, of course, Herbie Kane. Ian, we spoke about before we started recording that Luca Connell is just there, isn't he? And it seems that the players around Luca Connell play better when Luca Connell is playing, if you know what I mean. When Luca Connell went off, nobody took the baton, nobody started that fight in midfield and make the thing stick. Isn't that what we expected, though, from Kane, to be that leader in the midfield, not only for what we paid, but also the experience that he brought to the team?
Yeah, I know he's only 23. I mean, he looks more like 33, but he's been playing football long enough now. Connell sets the tone, and like you say, we said off air, when Connell's not there, shouldn't Kane be then rolling his sleeves up and setting the tone? He's more of the experienced players we've got in that squad, I suppose, and he feeds off Connell. But if Connell's not there, he should be the one driving the side on. In that second half, you should be looking at somebody like Kane, and that's where he's just lacking at the minute. So yeah, he's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back sometimes, that lad.
Yeah. Steve, the scores for this player are 2-1-1. Ian scored him twice as high as Oz did. The remarks are, who? Like Lukaku, glimpses of a decent player, but negging doubt over him. Fact Duff isn't playing him speaks volumes. Steve, tell me what you want to say about Josh Martin.
Not a great deal, to be quite honest. I've not seen, I'll put it that way, anything that says he's had a cracking season last season wherever he were, or he's a great player, and these other commentators from other clubs. So we can't remember when we had him and he did this and he did that and he did other. He's done bugger all for us. For me, waste of a shirt. I just don't see anything there, not only in his play, I just don't see an attitude that tells me that lad wants to come on and do well for Barnsley Football Club. You saw him on Saturday, he got subbed on. He played a pass that were absolutely, I could have done better myself, and that's saying something. I just don't see any commitment in him. And for me, he's one of these lone players that go to another club just so they get paid, and then they'll go back to their own club, and then they'll go somewhere else, like a journeyman sort of thing. He's not, to me, prepared to set down any sort of roots, become a Barnsley player. He's still contracted to, is it Norwich he's from? Yeah, he's more interested, I would have thought, of getting in Norwich side, but let's face it, he won't get in Norwich B side, he might A side. No. So no, not for me. Get shut. Let's have somebody who wants to play for the club.
Right, we'll skim over to the next ones. Phillips scored a 6.67. Matty Wolf a 6. Next one's interesting, Ian. Scored a 5.66. You scored him a 5. Me and Steve scored him a 6. Like Wolf, has shown the ability, but needs more game time and needs to settle in the right position. Not a striker for me. Lots of effort, little end product. Not convinced he is the answer. This, of course, Aitchison. Awkward, isn't it? Because came in as a striker, not really a striker, maybe more than that number 10 role or in midfield. Had a bit of a run, but then came out. Not seen him for a while now. No, has he been able to be consistent? Because he's not had a consistent run, has he?
No, some of that isn't his own fault because he's in 1 week, out the next, and then only comes on for 20 minutes or whatever. But I'd have probably scored him less if he didn't show that at least he does, like where we're slating Martin, and rightly so, At least with Aitchison, he will put sweat on the shirt and he will try. And he's never going to be prolific, I don't think. But he's a try, and at least you think, well, he's busted up for 60 minutes if he takes him off. So I'll give him plenty of credit for that. But I just don't think there's enough quality there. I really don't for me.
The last two then, Steve, for you, scores 6, 5, 7, so an average of a 6. Promised much, delivered little. Shows determination at times, but way past his best. J-Lo is miles in front of him and would play him before him every time. Impact player, wily character with a football brain, but legs are going. This, of course, James Norwood. We don't see enough like that, little flick of the ball and the goal on Saturday. We don't really see enough of that of Norwood, do we, Steve?
We don't see a great deal of anything. I mean, who gave him 7?
Me.
Why does that not surprise me? Why does that? I thought he might have given Kane a 10, but anyway, let's not go down that road.
I did. No.
He again is like the journeyman footballer for me. He's been at a lot of clubs. He's either done really well or mediocre. Happy to pick up a contract for 12 months to 2 years, and I look at him and I just see a guy at the end of his career that every now and again he'll have a burst of pace, and you think, oh, I hope he's off here, he's going to have this, but it's just like a damp squib, innit? Do you know what I mean?
And then his hamstring goes, yeah.
And then his hamstring goes, or he ends up falling out with another player and gets sent off. I think I do believe we have better players in the club than him. Going back to Aitchison, I'd have Aitchison before I'd have Norwood. I'd have J-Lo before I had Norwood. I'd have Ackroyd before I had Norwood, because I think if they're supposed to be learning off him as an experienced pro, well, it doesn't hold out much hope, really, does it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Then the next one, Ian, and the last one, 999. It's not an emergency. That's the scores that we all gave him. And the descriptions are as follows. Nobody wanted him. Nobody rated him. So what he's done this season is amazing. Big 2 fingers up to the doubters, shown quality, skill, pace, and an eye for goal. He's Carlo's love child. Didn't think he was even League One standard, but proving me wrong. Goal King Cole. This is, of course, Devante Cole. Mr. Consistent, Mr. Consistent as in appearance-wise, but actually his application's been good, hasn't it? And he's been, up front, probably the most consistent player that we've had this season.
Yeah, my comments were that he's proving me wrong. I really doubted him at the start of the season. I thought he's never going to get double figures. He's not a League One player. He's not going to be good enough. But I'll hold my hands up. He's proving me wrong. He's got that bit between his teeth. He's confident. He's putting a shift in. And if you're a striker at the minute, he's of all the strikers we've got, he thoroughly deserves his shirt in the side without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I really like is when you look at the scores that we've given these players, the 3 highest scorers, Mads Anderson, Luca Connell, Devante Cole. I mean, that's a spine to build off then almost, isn't it? Forget Collins, because Collins just, 7.33 is decent. It's a keeper, so it's always different. That's a really good spine to then build around almost, isn't it? Like you say, Mats, we need to go up for Mats to stay. There is some up and coming players that we need to keep an eye on, and probably some players that we wouldn't mind. When I say wouldn't mind leaving, but if you look at Jasper Moon, if you look at Josh Martin, if we can get a replacement in, it's somebody else to try, because I don't know who just said it, but it's about sweat on the shirt, isn't it? And when you see some of these players like Aitchison, might not always have the end result, but you get 100% dedication while he's on the pitch. And I can't help but think, and I know that's a little bit rough, that with some of the players, they don't want too much sweat because, they don't want the knees to be grazed or, their hair to get sweaty. And that's not what Barnsley Football Club is all about, is it? So
I think the annoying thing about it is as well, you look at Accrington performance, you look at the Barnsley supporters that are stood out in rain, sleet, hail, everything got thrown at them on Saturday, and they were still there and they were still singing. But you have players on that field that don't show the level of commitment that support deserves.
Yeah.
And that to me is, if you're not prepared to do that on your X amount of £1,000s a week, then go get shot.
Yeah.
They won't, for me, they're not worth the shirt.
We're halfway into the season. We're in 4th position. Things are looking good. Let's have we'll save this and we will refer back to it. Steve, where will Barnsley end up at the end of the final whistle, the last game of the season? Where in the table do you think Barnsley will end up? You've now had 22 matches to look at them and sort of make your mind up. Where do we finish?
My heart says we'll make playoffs, because we have got the players to do that. And if we can add quality, again, it comes back to quality, in January, I don't see any reason why not. I think we'll struggle to catch. I mean, Plymouth, who'd have thought Plymouth would have been so far in front?
Yeah.
But I don't think we can get top 2. But I'd love to think that we can make playoffs. However, my head says that, will there be any investment in January? Prove me wrong, but I don't know. We know what board's like. Yeah. And with the performances that we got at Accrington, would that mean then that we're going to drop a bollock and end up slipping down to 7th, 8th or 9th?
Ian, what does your gut say, besides the fact you want to put the telly on and have a beer?
My gut's saying I've had too much beer. I kind of echo what Steve's saying. January's massive. I think Duff, in some respects, is performing miracles with some of these players. We have been struggled with injuries. I know every side does, but we've suffered, and it could go either way. If we get some bit of quality in January, I think playoffs are more than achievable. If we don't, and we have a dodgy January, and we don't really bring anybody in, and we pick up another couple of injuries or something like that, I think we could drop out of it. But if Thomas, try and be positive, Thomas will come back for the second half of the season or some of it. Have a good January, bring a little bit of quality in. Playoffs are achievable.
Lads, this was the last one for probably for this year. We'll see how we go next week, but some of us are still working. Are you working, Steve, in between Christmas and New Year, or is it like 3 weeks out?
Look at his face.
Unbelievable.
Does that face?
Talk about a picture painted. Our 3 listeners must look at this and think, what the fucking hell does he do?
The 3 listeners
I'm back. I'm back working tomorrow. I'm back in tomorrow and Friday. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm back today. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying out, mate. Not saying out at all.
And listen, if we can finish on a high this year, with at least getting 3 points, who knows? But it's interesting, isn't it? That even when you're 4th at the table, all eyes to the board to see if they follow up on their words about investment in the squad and giving Duff the tools to be successful in this league. Lads, thank you very, very, very much. Go and put the TV on and go and watch that team from Leeds get absolutely thrashed up, down, left, centre, the lot. Hopefully we'll speak to each other next week and we can review how we went against Fleetwood and start previewing it's Bolton and then it's the FA Cup away at Derby, isn't it? So, Ian from the Tigers blog, thank you very much, and happy and healthy New Year to you, Steve.
Well, that 2 fingers, that mate. I couldn't quite make that out.
I put my thumb up, and I'm pretty sure
the thumb's going.
Yeah, I know what he's doing.
I'm pretty sure.
It's only because I normally do it for him. That's the only reason.
I'm pretty sure we'll have a pint at the pub before the Big Ben chimes in a couple of days.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
You've been listening to the Reds Report, powered by the Best of Barnsley and part of the network of fans.